Hey there, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are finally starting a new series on Aiogram 3. Yeah, with a little delay of 2 years. So what is the Aiogram 3? First of all, for anyone who doesn't know what the Aiogram 3 is, it is the modern, fully asynchronous framework for building Telegram bots in Python. It is built on top of Asyncio and asynchronous HTTP libraries. It is high-performance library used to create a very powerful and very scalable Telegram bots. It is one of the most popular choices out there. It is well-maintained and is stable and with clear and great documentation and a lot of resources. In short, it's a very solid choice to rely on. And since it is asynchronous, it can handle lots of concurrent connections. It also has a very simple and friendly learning curve. I've already made a few courses on this channel about Aiogram in general, but this series will be a little bit different. This time, I'm not only going to show you the basics of Aiogram. My goal here is to show you the broader development workflow behind the building real applications. So the main objective of this course is to help you understand not only the library itself, but surrounding development process. I want to walk you through the essential concept of software development, how to design your applications, how to choose a proper project structure, how to configure CI/CD pipelines, deployments and tests, the whole development workflow from start to finish. I'm going to use the Aiogram as our working example. But really, these concepts apply everywhere. There are tons of different libraries out there, different frameworks like Flask, Django, Fast API, or in any other languages, Node.js, Next.js, and so on. The technologies, they differ, but they all share the same underlying development principles. They all rely on the same consistent patterns of development process, the same consistent ideas that developers follow across the industry. And that's why this course is so powerful, because it will familiarize you with not only the Aiogram library itself, but with the principles of development process in general. So here I have lined up the chapters that we are going to have across this course. The chapter 1 will be dedicated to basic overview. We're going to build a very basic and simple example of Telegram bot using the documentation and very simple project structure, dispatchers, filters, and we're going to familiarize ourselves with a very basic so you could get your feet wet and get started building real bots as soon as possible. Then, for anyone who is more curious, we're going to familiarize ourselves with more concrete concepts like dispatchers, middlewares, filters, and so on. After this, we're going to switch the gears to a more complex project structure and more complex bots. We're going to cover CI/CD pipelines, deployments, and tests. We'll also consider containerized applications, and we'll go through in-depth concepts like webhooks and other stuff. And we also consider the integration with other services and APIs. And if you have any additional ideas what to consider across this course, feel free to drop them in the comment section below so I can include them in this course. So the one may be wondering, why do we even need Aiogram 3? If you are new here, my previous lessons were all based on Aiogram 2. Aiogram 3 is the next generation. It is more powerful, it gives you more tools out of the box, and it keeps all the strengths of the previous version. It is still fully asynchronous, but it also introduces a powerful routing system that helps you organize your bots logic in a clean and modular way. On top of that, Aiogram 3 comes with the magic filters, declarative, flexible filters that let you handle specific updates with almost no effort. You no longer need to worry about writing a bunch of custom filters for simple things. A lot of flows like middlewares and other internal mechanisms were also significantly simplified. Overall, the development pattern is very similar to Aiogram 2, and you still get all the benefits, but Aiogram 3 is a more modern, more polished, and gives you more features right out of the box. So what makes the Aiogram 3 library so special in general? Well, Aiogram really simplifies the entire development workflow. It is extremely developer-friendly. That's exactly why Aiogram 2 became so popular in the first place. It makes building Telegram bots faster, cleaner, and much more enjoyable. For example, it provides a finite state machine right out of the box, which lets us easily manage complex conversation flows and user states for things like quizzes, forms, multi-step interactions. I will show you all of that in practice later during this course. It also comes with middlewares, which allow you to intercept and process incoming updates or outgoing API calls. Perfect for logging, authentication, and much more. And it provides powerful keyboard builders, a very simple, fluent API for creating reply and inline keyboards for user interaction. Now let's talk about the changes from version 2 to version 3. In Aiogram 2, we had a dispatcher as a single monolithic unit. Filters were passed as arguments to handlers. Bot and dispatcher objects often passed around manually, and there was a heavier reliance on Lambda functions for filters. But in Aiogram 3, the workflow is significantly cleaner. we now have the new router system, which gives us real modularity. We have magic filters. We have a contextual bot instance, so no more manual passing. And the context is going to be extremely important because it lets us inject all sorts of powerful services, tools, repositories, and stuff like this. And we'll explore that throughout this series. We also get more type hints, more explicit structure, and overall Pythonic design. So that's all awesome. That's why many people appreciate the Aiogram 3, and that's why most of the modern projects get started with Aiogram 3 from the beginning. Now let's talk about the core of the library, the bot and the dispatcher. These two components are the foundation of everything in Aiogram. They are the cornerstone of the entire system. The bot is the instance that actually connects to the Telegram API, while the dispatcher is the object which is responsible for handling every incoming update. You can think of the dispatcher as a central processor of your program. It receives the updates and forwards them to the appropriate routing system. Here's a diagram that I have created to illustrate you my point. The idea is very similar to how Django or Fast API work. The terminology and vocabulary is different, but the concept is pretty much the same. The dispatcher is basically the boss. It takes the incoming updates and requests from Telegram API and routes them to the right handler via the routing system. And the bot instance is responsible for communicating with Telegram API, establishing connection, handling authentication and authorization. All that low-level stuff that you don't want to deal with manually. That's exactly what makes Aiogram so convenient. You don't have to worry about any of this. Everything is handled under the hood and you can focus on building your bot's logic instead of dealing with API requests and all the boilerplate. That's what makes the library so good. It simplifies all the heavy work and all the heavy lifting for you. But if you're still a little bit confused about how this works, don't worry about that. We are going to walk through everything step by step throughout this entire course. Just stay tuned. So what are the routers? In Aiogram 3, you don't register all handlers directly inside the main dispatcher. Instead, you use router objects. A router is basically a smart modular sub-dispatcher. It lets you register handlers, group them logically, and control how the updates are routed between different parts of your application. That makes your project more maintainable, easier to navigate, and significantly easier to test. And this is one of the major differences between Aiogram 2 and Aiogram 3. Instead of dumping everything into one big dispatcher, Aiogram 3 encourages a more modular, more consistent, more scalable approach and structure where each feature or section of your bot has its own router. Routers improve the development workflow because you can separate concerns, keep your code organized, and plug pieces in or out without touching the entire project. Let's take a look at the Hello World example in Aiogram 3. We start by creating a simple router object. Then we register the handler using the command start. This filter is the part of the Aiogram internal shared vocabulary. It is a common, intuitive way to define command-based handlers. Inside this handler, we simply call message answer and greet the user using their full name. This is the simplest possible example of showing how the routing and basic handlers work. Let's talk briefly about magic filters. This is one of the coolest features of Aiogram 3. Magic filters are very declarative, expressive filters that allow you to match updates based on very specific conditions without writing the custom logic as you did in Aiogram 2. For example, you can filter it by message type, content, user ID, text patterns, callback data, and much more. And you can do it directly in the decorator in a clean and reliable way. They reduce the boilerplate, eliminate repetitive if statements inside handlers, and make your code much shorter, safer, and more maintainable. We're going to explore more magic filters in detail later, but for now, just remember magic filters let you define very precise handler conditions without writing extra code. So here, an example, you can see it's 3 basic magic filters. Well, actually, there is only one single magic filter here, is the F object. And this object provides you access to many attributes and many different properties of your updates. For example, filter text attribute based on hello message. If the text of your message equals to hello, that means the handler below this filter will be invoked, will be triggered. Or for example, router message a photo filters out all data types which is not photo. Router callback query, data starts with user. This is used for callback query data. I'm going to show you how that works a little bit later because it's a little bit of more advanced practice. And now very briefly about finite state machines. Just a quick mention of what the finite state machine is. FSM or finite state machine is a built-in Aiogram mechanism that helps you manage multi-step conversations. For example, things like quizzes, forms, multi-stage wizards, and any interaction where the bot needs to remember where the user is in the process. We're not going to dive into a finite state machine right now, but you should be aware if it exists, and this is incredibly useful. And of course, later in this series, I will show you exactly how to use it in real projects. Alright, and to finish this video, here's a quick list of resources you can rely on. You can find them on the internet yourself. This is basically official documentation I'll be going through in detail in the next video, so don't worry if that feels overwhelming now. There is the GitHub repository. I'll also attach my own GitHub repository that relates to this course because we're going to have a lot of different projects. You can find all the links in the description down below as well as in the comment section. We also have a Discord community, so feel free to join. If you have any questions about Aiogram or anything covered in this series, you can ask them in the Discord or just leave a comment under this video. I'll do my best to answer everything to the best of my knowledge. And if you'd like to see more videos like this one, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps, but it's not mandatory. What is really important though is to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any next episodes. Alrighty, that's it for today's video, so stay tuned and I will see you in the next one. Bye.